Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special edition marking the Eid al-Adha feast, the feast of sacrifice. Many happy returns to all Muslims in Egypt and around the world celebrating the feast starting today. And joining us here tonight in the studio, we're joined by Dr. Shahira Gayyar, the Change Management Consultant and Lecturer at the Arab Academy for Science and Technology. Dr. Gayyar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion with Dr. Gayyar, let's check out this report regarding Egypt celebrating Eid al-Adha, the Feast of Sacrifice, here, and we'll be right back to start our conversation right away.
Known as Eid al-Adha, the Feast of Sacrifice is considered the most important feast of the Muslim calendar. It falls on the 10th day of the Hijjah, the 12th and final month of the Islamic calendar, as the exact day is based on lunar sightings. The date may vary among countries. The festival may also be known as Eid al-Kabir, which means the Grand. The Eid has this more important status as in religious terms, as this Eid lasts for 4 days. This festival is celebrated throughout the Muslim world as a commemoration of Prophet Abraham's willingness to obey Almighty Allah by sacrificing his son Ismail. Prophet Abraham was about to sacrifice his son when a voice from heaven stopped him and allowed him to make something else as a great sacrifice during the feast of Eid al-Adha. Muslims who can afford a sacrifice enact Abraham's obedience by sacrificing a cow, a sheep or a goat as a symbol of their obedience and submission to Allah. Eid al-Adha is a time for Muslims to come together with family and friends to celebrate and give thanks to Allah for His blessings. The day starts with a special Eid prayer, which is performed in congregation at mosques or other designated prayer locations. After the prayer, Muslims sacrifice and typically dress in their best clothes and visit family and friends, exchange gifts and sweets and share meals with loved ones. Different animals represent different numbers of portions. For example, a goat is 1 portion of meat, a cow or camel counts as 7 portions. The family eats about a third of the meat of sacrifice, a third goes to friends and relatives, and the last third is donated to the poor and needy. The giving of charity in the form of money, food or clothes to the homeless or poor is another key tradition of Eid al-Adha. The day begins largely traditional with prayers and sermon, followed by large family gathering. People meet with their friends and loved ones. Eid al-Adha has a special significance because it marks the culmination of Hajj or pilgrimage, the 5th pillar of Islam. This annual trek to Mecca, Saudi Arabia is only required of men and women who are physically and financially capable of performing it once in their lifetime. The Holy Islamic Festival is a joyous occasion that celebrates the faith and unity of the Muslim community. It is a time for reflection, giving and coming together with loved ones to express gratitude and celebrate the blessings of Almighty Allah. The Eid is also a time for people to exchange gifts and engage in acts of charity and kindness. It is a time for reflection on the importance of obedience, sacrifice and submission to Allah, and for strengthening one's faith and connection to the Muslim community.
Here I am, there is no partner unto you. Here I am, all praise and favors and sovereignty belongs to you. There is no partner unto you.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion with Dr. Gayyar right away. Now, Doctor, first off, the Greater Baram, the Feast of Sacrifice, Eid al-Adha, one of the two main Islamic feasts celebrated around the world, and obviously here in Egypt as well. First off, before we delve into the ways of celebrations and the greater meanings or the greater ways to express such joy with a feast, what can you tell us about the Feast of Sacrifice, the general meaning of it and the purpose of the celebration in itself?
Well, the Feast of Sacrifice is precedented by the first 10 days of the Hijjah. And for Muslims all around the world, they are very important days for worship and spiritual cleansing and doing good deeds. So a Muslim would initiate a feast, a holiday with supposedly a better spirits, a better relationship with God and others. If we talk from the point of view of sociology or positive psychology, people around the world, Muslims or non-Muslims, need to celebrate their special occasions. It's a need, it's a human need. That's why people around the world have feasts, holidays, celebrations, festivals, all sorts of special occasions. If we don't have one, we make one. Because we need it. We need that little, sub-station of joy in our lives. The feast of celebration in the Islamic world, in Egypt especially, people are accustomed to gathering. Family gathering, neighbors gathering together, even schools and universities, they have events planned during that time to gather people and meet face to face, interact face to face. We have a problem since the COVID-19 pandemic. We became more dependent on social media. We became separate islands, waving at each other through whatever device, whatever application. We used to say young people, youth, teenagers, now even parents up to age of 40-something, 50-something, they can't part with their phone or the internet for a few minutes. The feast is a good chance to interact as human beings and not virtual personalities dealing with each other. The feast is also a good chance to resolve maybe differences, issues, family issues. People nowadays, extended families, meet either on weddings or funerals.
Yes.
So such occasions would be a nice thing for family members to get to know each other, cousins, meeting new family members.
Yes.
Maybe outing. Usually people, go on picnics, barbecue, things like that. So it's a joyful occasion if we use it well.
Yes. Well, Dr. Gayyar, you've mentioned, if we are celebrating a feast and human beings need to let off some steam and they need to express joy and enjoy good times and positive events and energies.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned social media and how it could really disconnect or distance people from each other in a way, even though they might be sharing the same dining table or sharing the same room.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's quite essential. I mean, it is becoming part and parcel of the daily life, being online or being connected to a certain app or communicating through the internet. So how can we actually find some sort of a balance or moderation in terms of using social media for the essentials and for entertainment as well, but also really working on emphasizing the importance of the human connection, the human factor, the actual physical presence of people sitting together, communicating, and enjoying the company of each other? How can we actually reach this sort of balance, because we can't tell people just throw your phones off, put it in the
The
bin.
key word is balance. You said it. We need our phones. We need social media. Really, it has become essential. But overdoing anything is not good. People, they don't do what you tell them. They do what they see for themselves, what they experience, what they go through. It's a fact that a person needs to express him or herself face to face. Have you ever been so angry at someone that you are talking to that person alone with yourself? That person is not there, but you're just addressing that person, and that's an exercise we do to let off steam. So the feast is not only an occasion to enjoy family. The feast is an occasion to rebond with family, even if you would need to resolve some issues, to express yourself in a way. Usually extended family members don't see each other, or they do not meet for a long time. So Egyptians, they usually hug.
Yes.
A human being needs a hug, like a child, for example. A toddler, a two-year-old toddler would need to be hugged twice, every 2 hours. It's equivalent to the age.
Yes.
The 7-year-old 3 times a day. It's a need. It's affects. It has an impact on your health. Your body chemistry changes for the better. Not just shaking hands. Family members do this during the feast and the celebrations of such occasions. I think that having toddlers in a family, and then senior citizens, people who are in the age between, need to train themselves to more gatherings, more face-to-face interaction, less dependency. This would be the task for parents, because they are taking care of the seniors or the grandparents, and they are setting examples for the younger ones. I know it's easier said than done.
Yes.
But if we don't start sometime, things are going to get more drifting apart, less real communication. We need, as human beings, that's a scientific fact, we need face-to-face communication. We need eye contact. We need to touch gently.
Yes.
We need a pat on the physically, a pat on the shoulder. You know, when someone, family member, hugs you, for example, and pats you, it's completely different than just a hug. Yes. Body language in that case is very important. We cannot practice body language on social media. It's only emojis.
Yes. Well, Doctor, you spoke about how we can communicate positive and warm feelings, a pat on the back, a hug, eye contact, all these things. But he also mentioned resolving issues or differences or conflicts. Now, whenever there's a family gathering, it's all nice and fun, but whenever maybe one member says something or triggers something into someone else, it could turn a little bit negative. So how can we actually work on resolving or expressing a certain disappointment in a certain behavior or in a person or something that actually happened? How do we actually work on resolving these issues, these difficulties, but at the same time keeping it within a positive context?
You know, all these movies about Christmas and family issues that just surface on Christmas and Thanksgiving and these things, well, they happen also to Muslims in their feast. Things can get a little bit negative, but at the end it should turn out all right, even if it's not on the spot. You know, older people would have a saying or an impact. It takes two to make it or break it. The two people involved in an issue that they are not comfortable with, or a negative situation that they need to resolve, they must have the will to change. You know, readiness for change is the big deal, but the first rule of readiness for change, what's in it for me? It's not being selfish. I need to have a motive. If I disagree with a family member, or we are not on the same page about something, to meet that person halfway, I need to have something, some benefit for me. It has to be a win-win situation. If it's not, then we'll have to wait for another occasion.
Yes. Well, Doctor, I mean, you deal with a lot of adults and you deal with undergraduates as well. And you deal with different generations. Do you feel that these different generations have different ways of expressing themselves, expressing joy or communicating? Is there a gap, a huge gap between different generations now in terms of communicating with others and communicating their own feelings?
Well, we need to acknowledge that we are different as individuals. Even people within the same age group, they express themselves in different ways. If we attribute it to character styles, for example, people who are analytical will tend to be silent. People who are result-oriented will tend to be proactive, shout, show their anger, or show their joy. So the difference is not about generations only, it's about the personality itself. The key factor in all social interacting with family, extended family, is flexibility. You need to flex to others, you need to accept that they are different. But generally speaking, parents, older members of the family tend to celebrate in a less loud way. Young people would like to, go around fidgeting, going around, going to the movies. They don't want to stay in the grandma's or grandpa's house. They have commitments with their friends. They need to go out with their friends. They don't want to spend the feast with the family. So again, what's in it for me? You have to motivate them. You don't impose your way on them. They have a saying, even if they are 2 or 3 years old, they need to link, to anchor the feast with joy. Most families, they have issues during the feast. The way they celebrate the feast is imposed on them. We have to go to grandma and the other grandma, to the other parents.
This side of the family.
Yes, and you have to tolerate the uncle that you're not on the same page. You have to sit on the table, and we should eat together. You don't do it that way. If you want these young people to get really involved, the way we celebrate the feast should have a bit of an activity that they like. Why not have a movie on? Why not we do some outing? Why not involve them in preparing the food? Why not have presents, surprises, contests, competition with something? We need to innovate the way we celebrate the feast.
Well, is this, I mean, these sort of conflicts, do we have in the Arab world or the Middle East or North Africa, is it a cultural thing within a country like Egypt, or are they similar problems to what different people around the world, or people celebrating different feasts, or Muslims celebrating the Feast of Sacrifice around the world, do they have the same issues, or do they differ from one culture to another, from one country to another?
Well, as human beings, we are social creatures. We interact. We have our disagreements and agreements. We have the same basic psychological needs. We only express it maybe with different words, with different ways, different tools, but all human beings are alike around the world, taking into consideration individual differences. Even in an extended family, say that grandma and grandpa, they have a son and a daughter, uncle and aunt, they are from the same family, but if you go to the smaller family, you're going to see that each home has its own code of conduct, values, even they come from the same parents, so it's agreeable or accepted. For example, if my sister, for example, I have set of rules at my house, if that's different from that set of rules at my sister's. We are different. The trick is that we flexibility. We need to understand and acknowledge and accept that it's a win-win situation if we need things to go smoothly year-round, not only in the feast. But the feast is a good occasion because we are coming from a spiritual journey. I'm speaking as a Muslim.
Yeah.
You are coming from a spiritual, like they say for Christians, the Christmas spirit.
Yes.
You come with the feast spirit. As parents, if you manage it smartly, I think it's a very good chance for a great joy.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, not just in Egypt, but all around the world, Muslims are celebrating the Feast of Sacrifice, the Great Baram. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
Muslims observe the holiday of Eid al-Adha or Feast of Sacrifice in various locations around the globe, with some of the largest celebrations taking place in Saudi Arabia. Eid al-Adha is celebrated by Muslims all over the world. In Saudi Arabia, hundreds of thousands of pilgrims rose at dawn to Mina, a wide valley ringed by mountains where Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stopped on his route some 1400 years ago. At the Jamarat complex, pilgrims carry out the symbolic stoning of the devil, recalling Abraham's victory over temptation. The pilgrims throw pebbles at the three large pillars that mark the places where the devil tried to interrupt Abraham's sacrifice. In Egypt, Muslims refer to the festival as Eid al-Kabir. They focus heavily on the commandments of the fifth pillar of Islam, with an emphasis on performing acts of charity in honor of Prophet Abraham's intention to sacrifice his beloved son Ismail. The meat obtained from this sacrifice is distributed to others, especially those in need, and only 1/3 of the portion is kept by the family. The sacrifice denotes the willingness of people to give away things that are close to their hearts, to follow the commands of Allah above all else. Also, it signifies helping the needy and sharing with those who are in need, which is one of the main pillars of Islam. Like any other celebration in Egypt, Eid al-Adha is marked with a special meal, which is all about meat. On this day, Egyptians eat meat for breakfast in the form of meat cubes or fried liver. This is accompanied accompanied by fatta, which is rice toasted with tomato sauce, and bread chips. Meat is also eaten at lunch and dinner. Muslims typically begin in the day by attending 8 prayers at their local mosque or outdoor prayer space. The prayers are usually held early in the morning and involve a sermon followed by a congregational prayer. One of the key themes of Eid al-Adha is generosity, and Muslims are encouraged to give to charity, especially those in need. Donating to a local charity or organization that helps the poor and needy is a great way to celebrate the holiday. Muslims often gather for meals and exchange gifts, give candy and sweets to children, and attend various cultural and religious events. Eid al-Adha in Egypt is a time of family reunion, wearing new clothes and helping others. It is all about bringing people together, helping those in need, and sharing a spirit of love for God with everyone around you. Sometimes
كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا سبحان الله الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا سبحان الله وسبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا سبحان اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وعلى أنصار سيدنا محمد وعلى أزواج سيدنا محمد وعلى ذرية سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Gayyar. Doctor, now you were talking about the flexibility, how important it is in terms of communicating and understanding and accepting and resolving. At the same time, a lot of people are quite rigid and stiff in their mentality that they reach a point where they say, well, this is who I am, this is how I am, you deal with it the way it is and you accept me, you like it, fine, you don't like it, take the...
My way or the highway.
Exactly, the highway. So where can we actually find a balance to be strong-minded at certain times and be flexible at certain times, and how can someone, even if they're adults, be convinced that they could change if they desire that?
Well, you could take the horse to the water, but you cannot make the horse drink. The horse has to be thirsty. So the person whom you think, for example, that person needs change, maybe the person himself or herself does not see that. They don't see it that way. It's not only flexibility, it's acceptance. We need to accept each other first. For your own peace of mind and heart. People are who they are. They will not show any other color unless they have a motive. If you are in a position to initiate change, like you are a parent or a grandpa or a grandma, then you have to use the tools of change. You have to give a motive, you have to use the stick and the carrot policy, you have to lead by example, you have to listen. It's very important that you listen. Young people have a problem with older ones. Older ones, they think that younger people should obey and they should follow their lead. That was never true at any era. Even in the Stone Ages, each generation, each person has his or her point of view in life. If I live by your beliefs, you're asking me to pay your bill. You're asking me to be held accountable for something that I don't believe in. Nowadays, with the not only the technology era, the artificial intelligence era, you cannot. The machine is thinking. You have to allow the younger ones to think, even if they are thinking according to you, and not in a correct way or in a wrong way, or they have different set of values. they are the one who are going to pay the bill. This does not mean that we do not give advice, we do not contribute in the way they see things, but
Yes.
People learn by conveying knowledge, and also they learn by trial and error. There are some situations that we do not have to reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
But there are other situations that they have to find out for themselves, given that it's not a really dangerous situation, or they are going to be traumatized, or they're going to pay a big price. We are there to watch, guard as parents. Watch, guard, give advice, set example, listen. We take care of them. Once you make a decision to have a kid, it's your job 24/7 that you have an eye on that kid. That does not mean that you own the kid.
Yes. Well, Doctor, you've mentioned a few times the a spiritual journey, and you've also mentioned acceptance, and not just accepting the others, but also accepting oneself. So how, I mean, I know it's a pretty general question and a big one, but is there some sort of steps, a manual or steps to follow in terms of help really progressing in a spiritual journey, or having some sort of personal and spiritual growth, learning how to accept others and accept oneself? Are there certain things, I mean, people talk about meditation, people talk about many spiritual and meditative activities and techniques. So is there some sort of a manual or some steps that could be taken that would speed up or enhance or develop the spiritual journey and personal growth?
Acceptance is the key. Then comes awareness. You need to know where you stand. Compare yourself to yourself. If somebody you think is more advanced spiritually, please don't. Your spiritual well-being, your relationship with God is a very private thing. What's between you and God is between you and God. We all worship God in the 5 prayers of the day, sacrificing the feast, fasting Ramadan. These are what we call Sharia things we do. But what's really in the heart is what counts. My advice is take it easy, take it slowly, educate yourself, know about the God that you worship, know the attributes of God. You have to love God. We worship God not because we are afraid of going to hell. This is not a life. Okay, this is one thing. On the other hand, if we talk aside from spiritually, we talk scientifically, we have different levels of awareness. According to Hawkins, we have 17 levels of awareness. Hawkins was the one who have spoken about it and tackled it and made the measure and scale in contemporary sciences, but some people like Islamic scientists have spoken about the levels of awareness. It starts with shame and ends with enlightenment. So if you go step by step, slowly but surely, and be fully aware that you are a human being, you're not an angel, you're not a demon. That's spiritually. Use the tools. You could use a tool like socializing, seeing extended family, doing good deeds. By the way, we need to do a secret good deed because we need to have our own private success. You don't have to show that you are a good person and you are dealing with compassion and you are a great empath and these things. No, what's being secretly done in this area is the most valuable and with the greatest effect upon people.
Well, Doctor, you also spoke about now, I mean, in terms of accepting oneself, you don't have to compare yourself to others. And it's something that people it's a trap that people fall into quite easily, especially with social media. You always compare your lifestyle to other people's lifestyle, to what they show on social media, on their accounts, showing off different things and showing off different successes. Now, how can we actually reach a point when people don't compare themselves in a way that would disappoint them and frustrate them and maybe even depress them, but at the same time they would compare themselves to other people or figures that they would work harder or aspire to progress and enrich their lives in different ways? How can we find this sort of balance?
Well, we do an exercise. It seems primitive. We don't use technology at all. We get paper, colored papers, scissors and glue. We print out pictures and photos, and we have a big chart, and you start assembling the dream life you want. A house, a car, a job, spiritual-wise, family-wise, health-wise, even your food preferences you could put on that chart. Visualizing and making it by hand. You know, the subconscious does not know the difference between reality and imagination.
Yes.
If you make that chart, your subconscious understands it like the automatic pilot in a plane. It starts working on it. Even if you deviate, it gets you back on track. So we do this exercise and we modify. You will be surprised how people change their minds about things they thought it was basic, life or death. I have to have that car. I have to have that house. I really have to marry that girl or I will die. I will go crazy. When they do it on paper, things seem to manifest.
Yes.
Okay? If you do this exercise, and we do it a lot, people automatically start setting priorities. What they thought was on the top of the list, simply it doesn't come up at the top of the list. The person you need to be in good terms with is yourself, because you are the one who is living with you 24/7. You are the one who is in your mind. You are the one who is speaking to your heart.
Yes.
I'm not saying, you know, accept the minimum. I'm saying dream as if time and money was not. Is not an issue. We have a story. It's a businessman. He wrote the book The Answer. It's a very good book.
Yes.
That person used to do what? He used to establish small businesses and you know, an entrepreneur style business.
Yes.
And when the business breaks even and starts to profit, he sells the business. When he was young and he was very poor, he had like a mansion, a real one. It was his dream house, and he had no clue how he will buy such a mansion. And he forgot all about it. 20 years later, when he went to the real estate agent, when he was rich enough, one of the villas or the mansion, the real estate prepared for him for a tour, was his dream house.
And did he get it?
Yes. Things manifest if you let your mind serve you.
So you do attract what you believe or what you feel.
Yes, it's true. It's true. In the Islam, we have تفاءلوا بالخير تجدوه, and vice versa. يعني, hope for the well or the good to happen, it will happen. If you think about the worst, it will happen. The law of attraction. It's true. Do try the paper
Yes,
picture.
I'll probably dream of the mansion as
Yes,
well.
okay.
Dr. Gayyar, now you've also mentioned the importance of deeds, good deeds. Now, obviously, during the feast, the Greater Bear, the Feast of Sacrifice, and Ramadan, and the Feast of Iftar, al-Fitr. Now, people are used to doing charity work and good deeds during these times, and they are important even for the secret ones, for their personal success stories. Now, how can we actually make sure and take it to the next level, making it all year long, having this culture, this charity culture, the volunteering culture, the good deed culture, paying it forward all year long, and not just during the feasts and during the holy month of Ramadan?
Seek and you shall find. You know, decades before we had this system of al-tikaya, you know, in Egypt, the state or the governor or whoever is ruling would have places for food and shelter for people, not only needy people. Okay, anyone could go have food and have a bed if they don't have a place to stay for a while. We now have some sort of it, but it is contemporary, the NGOs. It's you need very much as a person, I mean, you need to do charity work. One of your basic needs for a quality life is to feel needed. People who are living alone, they get pets. Just to take care of a living being, somebody or someone or something. You feel needed. Charity work is our need, not the needy need.
Yes.
Also, you could do your own special charity, not only by donations or giving something. You could donate your time. You could donate a smile. You could donate not a good deed, a better way of dealing with others. We became very angry, very frustrated, very always annoyed.
Yes.
We have, you know, very short-tempered. You could start by training yourself to be a better person. I'm sorry, I'm using you. I don't mean you in person.
I'm the guinea pig for tonight,
one could start by giving 1 hour a day to be a better person. If you do something from 30 to 40 days or 30 to 40 times, it's going to be embedded in your subconscious,
becoming a habit.
a second nature, and you just do it automatically. It's important to set an outline or a frame for what does a better person mean for you.
Yes.
No one can tell anyone what's a good person.
Yes.
What's a good person to me, and then I head for it. And then I train for 1 hour, 2 hours a day, twice a week, thrice a week. You'll get there.
Yes.
With no effort.
Well,
that's how we lose weight in diets. That's how we lose weight.
Yes.
That's how we quit smoking.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, as Dr. Gayyar has mentioned, it is a time for celebration, but also a time for spiritual growth, psychological growth, positivity, communicating. All of these things, they do come with a discipline, making it a habit, making it a day-to-day thing, carrying out the good deeds, not just during the feast, but all year long. It's a mentality thing, and it's something that should be exercised all the time. And what a good occasion to start with the Greater Barim. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this very special episode. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Shahira Gayyar, the Change Management Consultant and a lecturer at the Arab Academy for Science and Technology. Dr. Gayyar, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nada International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.